Hey, what's up guys? I'm Alex, and I'm part of a developer team working on a game called Aces Armour, a World War II first-person infantry, tank, and aircraft game that's under development. This is the first devlog, so I'm going to take the opportunity to quickly basically run over what the game envisions before showing more of our progress. Also, sorry if my voice sounds a bit weird. I've been a bit sick recently, but other than that, let's get on with it. So our goal is to make the most immersive World War II battle experience currently offered. Players will act as individual crew members with friends in fully modeled tanks and aircraft, all with full interiors. They'll act in support of hundreds or even thousands of intelligent AI infantry organized into historically accurate platoons. And they'll basically be trying to achieve objectives on the map, like capturing supply depots. Aircraft on each team will fight to achieve air superiority over the battlefield, while supply trucks drive back and forth from rear bases and depots to the front line in order to keep their team's army well equipped. As a military sim, Aces Armour will feature both proper simulated controls and historical teams. To begin with, we're starting with Nazi Germany versus Soviet Union, and sort of the time frame is mid to late 1942, but the plan is definitely to expand in the future to a variety of different theaters, like a late war Western Front, Mediterranean, Pacific, North Africa, you name it. So, aside from that, I'll show you some of the progress we've made. The game's currently being developed by Delta Game Studios, and we've grown to a team of 10 people since beginning work in February this year. We started with tanks and infantry before branching out into aircraft. At the beginning, we worked on getting the driving logic down, implementing a system of engine horsepower, gears, traction, and suspension and stuff like that. San, our 3D modeler, also immediately got to work modeling the Panzer IV Ausf E, which is to be the first tank in-game, and it'll be basically a testbed for many of the systems that'll be implemented on all the other vehicles that we have planned. One obvious area of focus is getting the suspension right. As tanks roll around, they have a certain wobble and feel on their tracks. Getting the feel right definitely has a bearing on whether a tank kind of looks or feels right when it's driving around. The Panzer IV, of course, uses leaf spring suspension, which gives it a relatively rigid response compared to other types on World War II era tanks. In terms of the model, the level of detail is very high, as it needs to hold up for when you're in first person and walking close around the tank, or just poking your head out of the commander's or driver's hatch, where you'll probably spend most of your time when not in combat. San has also been developing a dynamic skin response section, which can alter certain characteristics of any skin or texture applied to the tank, like adding dirt or scratches or just general wear and tear. And of course, that can make up an element of the vehicle customization system and just generally be a mechanic in game as you drive around off-road or through dust clouds and stuff. Your tank will become more dirty. Vehicle customization is going to be a pretty big part of the game, although keeping it relatively historical. You won't be able to do stuff like add anime pillows to your tank, like in other games. But in terms of insignia, numbers, stuff like that, and also the actual paint scheme applied to the tank. Unlockable tech trees will be available for each vehicle, where you'll be able to unlock certain modifications for that tank. So, for example, with the Panzer IV, you'll be able to add on stuff like carrying extra track links, add-on armor, like a commander MG, and even more subtle stuff like ventilated grills on the engine deck to increase engine cooling and stuff. Because, of course, remember, this is a simulator, so you'll need to take care of your engine and monitoring it if you're the driver. Just a quick thing before I forget, some of this has already been shared in screenshots on our Discord server and Reddit. Actually, the link to our Discord server is in the description if you're interested in joining that, by the way. But, yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to join the server and drop them in the Q&A section, as I'm planning on making a question and answer devlog at some point in the future. Now, moving on to the interior, which is maybe the most hyped feature of the game. and it's a feature which kind of sets it apart from most games on the market right now. Making a full interior for each vehicle is definitely not the easiest thing to do, and finding enough resources like photos and diagrams is going to be a bit of a challenge. Our researchers might have to do some trips to archives to find some of that info for lesser known vehicles, but that's probably not so much an issue for pretty famous vehicles like the Panzer IV. Anyway, what we're looking at here is the work in progress for the Panzer IV Ausf E interior. Having a crew of 5, this tank is somewhat cramped, with a 3-man turret and a 2-man down in the forward compartment. Historically, this version of the Panzer IV entered service in October 1940 and had various improvements from its predecessor, such as increased armor protection. We can see the Synchromesh ZF SSG 77 transmission, which has got 6 forward gears and 1 reverse. It actually takes up a lot of space in the forward compartment and separates the driver from the bow gunner, sort of down the middle of the tank. Of course, the bow gunner also serves as a radio operator. Of course, as we are modeling the capabilities of the equipment which the crew uses realistically, players will find a lot of amenities and luxuries in the Panzer IV that would actually be missing or just substantially worse in other tanks of the era. Predominantly stuff like optics, radio, just general visibility. The Panzer IV Ausf E, when compared to something like a T-34, which you might see in 1942, actually has much more capable and high-quality optics, allowing it to spot and engage at further ranges, and probably with higher accuracy. Also, the radio. The commander had a radio connection to the rest of the crew, even if they didn't all necessarily have a way to communicate back. I can't remember the exact setup here, but of course we've got the information on it, just need to check before implementing it. Anyway, compared to many other tanks of the day which didn't even have radio communication at all, that's a huge advantage. Even if, on paper, stuff like the gun and armor is inferior to a T-34. It goes to show how many factors go into tank engagements that are relatively glossed over if you just give a third-person view and one-person full control over the vehicle. Before we continue, I want to briefly mention that developing a game such as this is really expensive. To be transparent, we've had 3 individual investors covering our initial development period from February to June, but for the future of the game, we need to transition to a community-driven model. This means that we won't be constrained by shareholders, and we can work directly with the community in regards to what they want to see in the game. Our aim is to get 1,000 people to pledge a $10 monthly support on Patreon, and with that we could fund development at full speed indefinitely until release. So if you like what we're doing, have a look. We have 3 tiers, all with perks. All tiers will receive unique cosmetics upon release, and top tier patrons will actually receive a one-of-a-kind exclusive vehicle upon release that will never be made available again. Individually, $10 a month is a small amount, but collectively it can do a huge amount. So if you want a new game to break free of the established games which have dominated this space for years, we'd greatly appreciate it and love to welcome you to the community. Links in the description if you want to check out the Patreon. Anyway, moving on, I'll mention now a little bit of the progress we've made on the infantry side of things. Now, infantry, in terms of as a branch of military, will be AI controlled. This is just so that they behave realistically and intelligently and properly as teams, which sort of often fails to happen when you give players control of them. There'll be a few hundred to possibly 500 plus per team, divided into platoons that will spawn at rear depots and make their way to the front lines. To touch briefly on the AI, I plan to make a dedicated devlog focused on this in the future, but Brody, the dedicated AI programmer, has been working on this for a few months, and we're definitely going for a very intelligent feel. They'll work properly as teams, coordinate attacks or movements with other platoons, react to tanks controlled by players and work alongside them, and all that good stuff. Now, even though as a whole, infantry will be AI operated, Players can theoretically, of course, like dismount their tanks, vehicles, or even aircraft, pick up arms and fight alongside them if the situation presents itself. We've been working on some different uniforms and stuff like that. The human model itself is actually going to have significant facial customization, so when it comes to players making their character, they'll be able to model the face into their own unique character, and of course the clothes, so you'll be able to select shoes, trousers, jackets, hats, obviously within certain historical limitations. Our first few guns are under work, including the Mosin Nagant, which will come in a variety of different versions, the Kar 98K, and of course a slightly different type of gun, the anti-tank gun. Infantry needs some way to counter armor after all, so here we've got the Soviet 45mm M1937, beautifully modeled by San. Before too long we'll have this up and running, operated by soldiers and firing against the Panzer IV. And hopefully we'll share that in a future devlog. But anyway, that's been pretty much everything I wanted to go over in this developer diary. Thanks to everyone for watching. Please like and subscribe, and of course support on Patreon is greatly appreciated, link in the description. And of course, as mentioned, we do have a Discord server, link in description, so yeah, come and check us out there. Other than that, I'll see you guys later.